Hello, we're here at Government House in Canberra for National Carers Week, and I'm joined by a group of extraordinary carers from around Australia. During Carers Week, we're thinking about who is a carer and when do carers acknowledge that they are carers and how might they reach out for support as carers. So I've had a wonderful conversation here with some carers who have shared their story, and we're going to have a chat about what it means to be a carer, and particularly when do we first acknowledge that care is essential to our life and we have become a carer. I'm going to start with Michelle. Michelle, when did you realise that you had actually become a carer?
Well, I sort of graduated into it really. I was just a daughter most of the time, helping out Mum who had early onset dementia and was living at home, and I was working full time and helping with medications before work, after work doing things, and on the weekends being with her. And then I hit crisis point with a legal issue, and there was nobody I could turn to help. And I think the Citizens Advice Bureau in my state referred me to Carers WA. And then my world changed, honestly. I was no longer alone. So I met lots of people that were in similar, different and sometimes worse situations than my own. And it was just great because when we go out and meet together, we don't talk about caring, we talk about the rest of life. And I must say, as challenging as it is, there's a lot of joy in being a carer. I wouldn't change it.
Yes. But it was a moment, as you said, you didn't identify as a carer.
No.
And when you did, and you reached out to Carers WA.
Yes.
Suddenly a community.
A community, because prior to that, I'd been working and lost my identity, largely that comes with work in business life, and I'd lost a lot of my friends with that. So I didn't have a strong network. I don't have much of a family. And now we all rely on each other. I've met these social groups that I attend at Carers WA that I'm still a member to, although my mum passed away recently. It's led me to be a carers representative, where I am the voice of people with Alzheimer's or dementia that cannot speak up for themselves. And I'm on the National Advocacy Network of Australia, and I'm helping do a training session, for example, for carers in residential aged care. So lots of opportunities. It's almost a full-time job being on all these things.
But it's wonderful how acknowledging you're a carer unlocked.
Yes.
It's become a big part of your life.
Yes. It gave me my job back, as well as, allowing me to be the carer.
It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask Isabel. Isabel, your story is quite different because you wouldn't have identified yourself as a carer at age 8. But what happened?
I got to the age of 14 and my mother took another hospital toll. She had a stroke. So I care for my little brother and my mum as well, who has a brain infection. She's also got MS. But it wasn't until I was constantly arguing with systemic issues within the education system that I was like, I am a young carer. The CEO of Carers Tasmania spoke to me and said, Izzy, you are a young carer. There are supports available. You shouldn't be alone struggling throughout this.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, I'm just a kid with some responsibility. It's nothing. But no, I am a young carer, and it's become a big part of who I am. With that support in place, it's made a significant difference. If I'm not 10 steps behind my peers, I'm actually up to speed with them. And yes, I get extra support, but that's support that's needed. It's not support that's, giving me a head start. It's giving me that stepping stone that I needed to compete with everyone else.
So Izzy, you started, that's at about 13 or 14, but at age 8, your care started in your family, and you would never have recognised that. So by the time you were a teenager, you'd been a carer for a long time, but not identified. So, and falling behind at school, and finding that you're having to take care of everything at home, but no one really paying attention to you as a carer.
Exactly. So at the age of 8, it was one of those things I didn't talk about with my classmates. I didn't talk to my teachers about it. It was something I did at home. It was just kind of how home life was to me. And it wasn't until high school itself that I realised that I'm struggling a lot. And I tried to speak to teachers about it. I tried to speak with my parents about it. But it was incredibly difficult because we'd lived the way we were for so long, and coming from a culturally, linguistically diverse community. It was one of these things where you're young, you look after your parents, you give back to them as they've raised you. It wasn't something
But Carers Tasmania has been a big part of finding some solutions.
Absolutely. I was able to speak up and get help from them, and that has been a big part of my identity. I now sit on the Minister's Carers Advisory Council for them and the National Carers Strategy for First Nation people.
And you've also now at university, so you're now studying.
Now studying occupational therapy at university, so able to use my lived experience to help others.
It's a wonderful story and a reminder that care isn't always about getting on in life and playing a role as adults. It can start very early. You mentioned CALD and diverse communities. I know that as a Chilean, Jacqueline, you've taken on a responsibility as a carer, and you probably had not acknowledged that yourself either.
Yeah, my mom had dementia. In 2010, she was diagnosed, and I've been looking after her at home. She lives with us now before she lived independently. And I found myself as the carer for mom, which I'm glad, because she was always been for my family in the past, and now it's my turn to look after her. I see it as my duty here. But at the same time, I think as a carer, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot because you have appointments, doctor's appointments. I used to work. I kind of decided to stop because mom is 93 now. So I thought, I need to spend more time with her because I don't know how much time I've got left with her. So I stopped working. I was working as a allied health in the Department of Health in South Australia. I enjoyed my work, but I decided to stop doing that. And what I thought is there's a lot of juggle when you're a carer and working. Yeah. You have to negotiate with your team leaders, and lucky that work in a public service, so they have those flexibilities. Yes. But I know not all carers that are working have that flexibility. So I had to do a lot of negotiation, and that's one of the skills as carers we have. We have to be flexible. We have to have a good sense of humor. Also forgive ourselves when we make mistakes.
And you found Carers SA. You
found Carers SA, and they supported me throughout this journey that I'm going with mom. I also part of a multicultural network or group, and we talk about how Carers SA can improve services for CALD communities. How can we let carers, multicultural communities know that there is Carers SA for support, assistance? Yes. Because we see it as a duty. My culture is just part of looking after your parents or your siblings, whoever.
Yeah. And you need to be taken care of too.
Exactly.
So I'm very happy that identifying the carer and using Carers SA to help. But it doesn't make the work any easier, but it means you have something you can do.
No, but I have somewhere where if I need counseling, I know that I can access counseling. I don't have to pay, because counseling privately is expensive. Yes. And that's a good thing, that if I need respite, I can ring up and ask for a break, because our mental health needs to be looked after as well. Our relationship with our families, siblings, or daughters and sons or grandchildren, have time for me as well. Yeah. Because as carers, we always give. Yes. And we tend to forget.
So I'm going to come back to a young story. Liza, tell us about when you identified as a carer.
Yeah, so being a carer is sort of an identity that was thrust upon me, and for a long time I kind of didn't want that label, in that it was just my life. I was just the child of somebody who lived with the condition that they lived with. I didn't see my life as different to my peers. It wasn't until I started attending Carers SA groups with the support of my grandma and my other staff members that I was able to meet other young people who had similar experiences to me. And then slowly I started to build on this identity language as a carer, and I was able to connect with the idea idea that, hang on, I actually have all of these extra responsibilities. And that gave me, I guess, the voice and the opportunity to speak with my classroom teachers about my role and get supports to be able to be successful at school. And that was something that was really important for me.
So Carers SA has played a big role in your life already.
Yeah, and a big part of that was accessing the peer groups so that I could get the language to be able to support myself. And then from there, similar to what Jacqueline was saying, I was then able to access counselling, access financial support, access all of these other things to help build my life into the life that I wanted it to be.
Otherwise, it could have been a much tougher
That's
moment.
right, yes.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And Louise, you have a different story because yours is about looking after your son.
Yeah.
And I suspect you didn't identify as a carer when he was very young.
No.
It came later. So tell us when you realised that you were actually a carer.
Yeah, well, it does take a little while when you've got a baby and a toddler because you think I'm a mum, and all babies and toddlers are high needs, right? With 24-hour care for them. So I think it was when he started, missing his developmental milestones around 3, and I wasn't on the same path as the women in my mother's group were. Their children were different to him all of a sudden, and I felt like myself being more and more isolated from that kind of support. And so then I, started to needed some therapy for him, and a few therapists said to me, "Oh, have you heard about Carers Queensland? You could, get some support there." I was actually very exhausted. I was actually burnt out, which is very common with that toddler age, especially when you've got kids who are darting off and, don't have the rationality to say, I shouldn't run across that road, I shouldn't go jump in that freezing cold body of water in the middle of winter. So you're constantly on you're hyper alert. You're running around physically after them. You've got the emotional load, and then you've got all this fear about how they're going to develop or not develop, and what will their future and your future look like. And there's so much going on. And the therapists were always saying the more you can do in this early intervention, the better. So trying to juggle work part-time and then being a therapist at home, an amateur one in my case, speech therapist, OT, all the rest of it, to get him up to, the best he could be. All that responsibility is on you as well. And I realised other parents don't have that. Their kids are just acquiring language. Their kids are just knowing.
So when was the moment where you said, I'm actually a carer and I'm going to need to get support from a carers organisation?
Well, I think when the therapist mentioned about it and I looked it up and I suddenly thought, oh, gee, that is me. The way they describe, feeling the overwhelm and feeling the isolation and all the rest of it. And then, being absolutely exhausted, there was a carers retreat weekend, which I went on, and just to be there all weekend with women who were living the same life as me, which I didn't know anyone until that happened, but also the people facilitating it saying, you need to care for yourself as much as your child. And that was just an anathema to me because I thought, no, surely not. The child's high needs. I'm an adult. But looking back, they were so right. And if I could change my past in any way, I would have taken all that pressure off myself and taken the breaks and not treated every minute with my child as a therapy session, but give him also some breaks from always having to be, being enriched and being, in a therapy session when every time we played or to catch a ball or something like that. So too much pressure on myself ended up putting too much pressure on him. Yeah. And looking back, I can only see it from a distance. So my advice to parents who've got young children would definitely be, think about the long run. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So actually bank in that you time where you just hang out with your child, tickle them, have fun, laugh, just be silly, put that movie on and both relax and watch it.
Yes.
Don't worry about the milestones 24/7. Yeah, because it's so much pressure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all of your reflections and your insights. They're deeply personal stories, and they're all journeys of a different time scales as to when you all realised you're actually carers and that had consequence. I'm so delighted to hear the stories that once you did that and you reached out to services from a number of carers, group carers at the state and territory levels, and I'm patron of Carers Australia, and for that reason, as Governor-General, I want to put care at the centre of everything that I do and the work we do around the country. And it's a profound matter in Australia. Care is what holds up the country, and to know that there are so many people who are still in the world that you were in who don't identify, doing the hard work and probably getting isolated, losing friends, feeling exhausted, to know that there are organisations like Carers Australia and all of the carers organisations that you've engaged with. That's what we should be doing and thinking about, not just in Carers Week, but all the time. So I want to thank everyone. If there are carers watching, know that you're doing the right thing in seeking that support. If you've just realised that you're a carer by watching these wonderful stories, it's time to reach out and take care of yourself, ensure that you use services. I think you've heard a story of it releases both the carer but also the person that you're caring for and about. So we've had a wonderful discussion that has been so enriching, and I want to thank all of you for sharing so generously. And I want to wish you all a happy Carers Week and to say thank you for everything that you do. But it is really affirming to know that when services are drawn upon, they help you, that you have a good life, and you've all reflected on the fact that you now are very proud of what you do, and it's been a very part of your lives and is almost determining your future lives in the work that you do. So thank you for all the care that you show every single day.
Thank you.